Francis Schaeffer tells another story that's found in this book, How to Be Your Own Selfish Pig. It's one of the books, in fact, I would say it's the only book outside of Scripture when I was teaching high school that I had my students read in Christian schools. How to Be Your Own Selfish Pig. One of the things I love about this book are all of the stories in it. And you can access this book easily enough, find it online. I highly recommend that you do. Some of the stories that I tell actually are coming from this book. This story is such an important story, and one that was so important and powerful to me and my students that I thought I would simply read it to you, like a grandfather might read to his grandchildren. So, listen closely to this story because it has to do with the issue of reality. If indeed there is a God who is separate from us, He's transcendent, and also at the same time He is immanent, He cares for and is close to His creation, then He has something to say about reality. In fact, the natural world is benefited by the supernatural world creating the natural world. So, in this particular video, listen to this story about the Hindu and the tea kettle. One afternoon, my parents visited Cambridge University, and this is Susan Schaeffer Macaulay, who is Francis Schaeffer's daughter, telling this story. My parents had visited Cambridge University and met with some students in the living room of a college apartment. My husband-to-be Ronald, his good friend Tom, and other students gathered round the fireplace. A tea kettle was whistling cheerfully on a gas burner nearby, promising hot cups of tea. As the group discussed ideas, one young man from India who was Hindu by religion began to speak against Christian ideas of truth. My father, Francis Schaeffer, decided to probe the fellow's own conclusions to show that he could not actually live and act upon what he said he believed. Francis begins, "Are we agreed that you believe that there is only one reality, which includes all things and all ideas?" The young man nodded. Then my father pursued, "This means that ultimately everything is the same, that any difference we see in the temporary world is an illusion, that there's no such thing as a separate personality, correct? No difference between good and evil, or between cruelty and non-cruelty." Wow, the young man had agreed again, but the others in the room were surprised at the full extent of their friend's Hindu beliefs and what they could be. Tom, one of the people that was in this room at the time, was struck by the fact that such beliefs didn't fit into the real world. But instead of arguing, he reached for the steaming tea kettle, lifted it over the surprised Hindu's head, and began to speak to him this way. Everybody looked surprised, and the Indian student looked scared to death. And so Tom said, "If what you believe is really true, there is no ultimate difference between cruelty and non-cruelty. So whether I choose to pour this boiling water over your head or not, doesn't really matter." There was a moment of silence, and then the Indian rose and left the room without comment. He could not match what he believed with real life. And isn't that just the same way with all things? How do we match what is all around us in the created world with what we know to be true from what Scripture teaches us about this transcendent and immanent God at the same time? How do we understand reality, and how do we get after the idea that we know that something is real? Is it simply real because I touch it and it's physical, or is there a supernatural realm? We talk often about 5 senses, but we often forget, even as Christians, the 6th sense, that is that there is another world to which we must give an account. And that world has been ordered and ordained by the God who has made all things. He is the author of Revelation. He is the one who established the baseline of starting points in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This story about the Hindu and the tea kettle helps us to understand about reality, about the way things are, the way things work, the way God made them to work, and the reason why, as Christians, we think the way we do about the world in which we live. So, I've given you some passages of Scripture to think about, to consider, and then also some questions to answer. I hope you enjoy.